Welcome to Motherology, an opportunity to discuss all things motherhood, all the ups and downs and roundabouts and crazy. An opportunity for us to grow and tell our stories and become the best mums we can be, not because I'm going to tell you what to do, but because we're going to figure out how awesome we really are. Okay, Birdsong. This song is, I love this song. I love sitting at my piano and just playing it. I love playing that little melody on the piano. I started writing this song a very, very long time ago. It was a rough time for me, very rough time for someone very dear to me in her marriage, and this song was kind of born out of the idea of waking up to the fact that I have life, I have potential, I have all the things, but I feel like I'm stuck in a cage. I feel like a bird in a cage. And waking up to the idea that somebody else's behavior is affecting me in a very visceral way, where I feel trapped and I feel stuck and I feel caught. And then we get to the second verse and it's saying, but how many times am I going to do the same thing where you're not noticing? And am I just repeating my own bad behaviors and thinking that it's going to change something? What should I be blaming somebody else for my stuckness? Should I be looking at my own behavior to see if I'm stuck because I'm repeating behaviors as well that are unhealthy and unnecessary? And, third verse, we get to how much time am I going to waste still going around in this same cycle and patterns of behavior without shifting something and understanding that the bars of my cage are imagined. They are habits, they are behaviors, they are attitudes that can be changed. And it was a really kind of big revelation of a song that was, I needed to write this song to understand some stuff. I wrote the first two verses a long time ago. There were some other verses that were in there and no bridge. And it was a song in progress over many years, which is a beautiful thing. I honestly think, same with Time, song number 5. About miscarriage. I started writing it in 2004 and finished it in 2022, 23. And so I needed my songwriter partner, Andrea, who I mentioned in the introduction, to come alongside me with some of these songs that I was kind of stuck in the raw emotion of and structure them well as songs and help with finding new language for the overcoming part of the songs. She's brilliant. Big shout out to her again. And with this song, it was the third verse and chorus, the bridge that really kind of came out of our collaboration of, why have I got stuck here? Why am I feeling stuck at all? The only thing that's keeping me stuck here are my own habits, are my own thought processes, are my mindsets. But they're not set. They can be changed. They can shift. You can form new neural pathways in your brain. Did you know that? That our brains are constantly growing and constantly shifting. There's very little fully known about the brain, but my goodness, the research around it is incredible. There's research being done about holographic images in our brains, that memory is stored all over the place and it's in holographic images. Don't ask me to quote the chapter and book of where I read that, but it's real. And it's new research around how our brains function and how our brains work. So don't tell me you can't change, because you can. Our brains are constantly changing. Our brains are constantly shifting. If someone has a brain injury, other parts of the brain can take over the part of the brain that was injured. We are capable of change, even if we don't want to. It's possible. It's painful. It's very painful. It's very difficult. But it is totally possible. So we get into I'm talking about the structure of the song and the basic stuff around it before I get into the meat of it, but the you get into the, well, if I'd learned to love myself and rise above, like get out of these mindsets, get out of the way I've been thinking and accepting my own behaviors and somebody else's behaviors, rather than challenging them by just having the same argument over and over and over and over and over again. And this could be in your relationship with your parents, it could be a relationship with your kids, it could be a relationship in your marriage. There is a moment in our lives where we go, I'm stuck in a pattern, and it happens often around, 40, around middle age, where you go, I don't want to be stuck. I don't want to be stuck. Something has to change. Something has to change. And it's only often happens once you've been through that knowledge of having an immovable something in your life that goes, you know what? Something needs to change. And I am now capable of making those changes because I have a constant in my heart that is not going to change. So you get to the bridge and you realize that there are choices you can make to change the patterns of behavior in your own life and to challenge patterns of behaviors in other people's lives that are affecting you. And we get to, if I can learn to love myself and rise above, open my eyes. Sometimes when we have bad habits or we have habitual things and cycles of behaviors, it's like we're literally blind to what's happening. But if we would open our eyes and if we would truly look and see inward and outward and recognize what's happening, and I can rise above it, then I can see how to make a difference. No more waiting to be free. No more waiting for somebody else to do it. I think there's a direct correlation between how much we blame other people for what's happening in our lives and how much we rely on other people to get us out of what we're in our lives. If you blame people for where you are, you'll expect those people to be the one to change the situation that you're in. That's not a reality. Blame is different than responsibility. You can ascribe responsibility to somebody else's behavior for what they've done to you. There's some facts in there. Oh, by the way, do you like my shoes? I love my shoes. They're yellow. You can give responsibility. You can ascribe responsibility and say, look, this happened and you did it to me, or I did it to you. You need to take self-responsibility for the things that you are responsible for. It might be 5% you, but it's 5% you. Take the 5% and own it. It's different than being like blaming someone and being a victim of their behaviors, and you feel like there's nothing you can do. So then they are responsible for getting you out of the situation that you think they put you in. They were just being idiots, or they were just being themselves, or they were just walking down the street, or they were whatevering themselves, and it affected you. They are responsible for their behaviors, but how it affected you is entirely your responsibility. And if something needs to change, change it. If you need to put some boundaries up, put some boundaries up. If you need to walk away for a while, walk away for a while. But don't miss out the part where you take responsibility for your own behaviors and self-reflect. If you're able to see the facts of somebody else's behavior and give them the responsibility for their behavior, great. Don't miss the fact that you have to take responsibility for your own behaviors and see where you are responsible so that everybody can shift and come back to a place where there can be a meeting of minds. You can pray for it. Doesn't always happen. Where things can be resolved and everybody can make a few tiny adjustments, change some mindsets, learn some new patterns of behavior, new ways of responding to things. Triggers, for me, are a blessing. Whenever I get triggered, I go, ooh, I've got some healing that needs to happen inside me. And when you start recognizing your triggers, you'll start seeing that there are patterns, and that they all point back to a moment of pain in your life. And if you can deal with that moment of pain in your life, you can stop blaming the people that triggered you and deal with the pain down here, usually from childhood. And then you're not triggered anymore. And people will still behave the same way. And it might be really, really bad behavior. I'm not saying that people don't behave badly. They do. They behave really, really badly. But that's not the point. The point is you. The point is you and how you deal with those things. The point is, how do I deal with somebody else's behavior because I am not responsible for their behavior. I am not able to stop them behaving the way they do. I can't change another person. I don't know if you figured that out yet. It's a hard one to admit, but you cannot change another human being. You can't change your kids. You can help them and give them good character and responsibility and discipline, and you can train them in all of the things, but they are themselves. Like, I can't stop my daughter being creative. She's creative. I'm not going to make her become an accountant because I want her to be an accountant. I don't want her to be an accountant. But if I did, that would mean changing her or denying her being herself. I don't want to do that. I'm not going to do it. And I'm not going to do it for any other person on the planet. I'm not going to make them be something they're not because it makes me feel better. That's just control, and it's rude. Now, if someone's beating you, that's a whole other level of abuse. If there's abuse going on, that's another conversation. If there are relational issues that can be fixed, then talk about responsibility for the other and for yourself. And when you love yourself, you can let your guard down a little bit. It's amazing. When you are kind to yourself, pride has less of a place in your heart. Where you're like, it wasn't me, I didn't do anything wrong, it was all them. That goes away when you're like, I love myself, I'm awesome. So I don't need to be right because I already know I'm cool. If I already know I'm cool, I don't need to be right all the time to make myself feel better. So that whole thing of immovable love, deal with that first. And then you get to this amazing place where you're like, I was wrong. I'm so sorry. I did it. Let me take responsibility for me. In this, I need to change things. And you see the bars that you thought were stuck around you where you couldn't fly and you couldn't sing and you couldn't fulfill your potential and you couldn't change what was happening and you was constantly frustrated. You will watch the bars melt away in your life when you begin to see things as they actually are inside you and in others. And you're able to say, hey, when you talk to me like that, it makes me feel this way. Hey, when you do that thing, it's hurtful to me. Yes, we're loving without expecting anything in return, but we're also loving ourselves. So we need to have again, it's all about balance. My dad loves DIY and he loves to balance things. He doesn't quite finish what he's doing. He made us a lovely tabletop for when we were children. There was a few of us, so we needed a bigger table. So he decided to keep the bottom of our table, and instead of having the normal tabletop that one would have on top of this particular table with these particular legs, he decided to build a new tabletop. But what he failed to do was screw it down. So dinner time at my house when I was a kid was very funny. He used planks that weren't properly, I don't know what the term is, but when they're not like aged in some way, so they warped. My dad, he put these planks together with some kind of struts. He screwed them down to the struts, and then the planks all started warping, and he didn't like nail the whole thing down to the legs. So you couldn't lean on one end of the table because it would flip up and the food would go everywhere and everyone would get whacked on the head. It could be a hospital visit from that. All he needed to do was to screw it into the legs, but he chose not to. He likes to balance things. That's a bad form of balance. Love you, Dad. Love you very, very much, but probably not the best idea when you've got 4 very active children around your table. And the food, when you pass it to someone, just tips because the plank warped. And so there was one plank was here and one plank was here. So you try and pass something across the table and it would just stop or flip. That's not the good type of balancing. There is a good type of balance where your life comes into balance, where you love yourself. It is so important to love yourself. To admit where you struggle to love yourself and to have the tools to be able to say, no. I am precious. I am worthwhile. I am amazing. I am extraordinary. I am unique and important. To be able to love others well and to, look, people should say thank you when you cook dinner. They should. They should say it every day. If they don't, it's not the end of the world. If they do, it's a bonus. It's a gift. You taught your kids to be polite. Well done, you. There's a balance when it comes to relationships, and there's a balance of understanding where things need to shift, having those difficult conversations without blame. That's the hardest thing. I do think blame is a massive issue that we face, and this song is trying to help us understand. It helped me understand. Literally writing this song was the thing that really healed my heart of a lot of these issues, where I go, I must stop blaming. I must take responsibility. I must see who is responsible and what they've done for things to me, and then address it. And sometimes it's appropriate to talk to the person. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes you just can let it go. Sometimes you just let it go and forgive, and you move on with your life, and you allow those things to be healed. You let those triggers happen. For example, I find it really hard when people just don't listen to what I'm saying, and they think I've said something else because they've got a filter on their ears that suggests to them that I'm saying something that they understand, rather than taking a moment to process what I'm saying and understanding me. They just go, oh, you're saying this, and this is what I think, and this is what it is. I'm like, no, it's not. It triggers me. I go, why aren't you listening to me? You're not listening. This is, and it immediately makes me angry. Now, angry feelings are normal. Be angry and do not sin. Like, you can be angry. Angry is fine, but allow it to inform you of what it is you're actually going through. The anger I can feel when somebody reflects back to me something I didn't say or didn't mean, and they're giving me a whole speech on something that was never my intention, I go, okay, I'm feeling angry. Why am I feeling angry? Because I've not been listened to. Oh. Anybody guess? Anybody? Anybody guess why that's an issue for me? And then I have got to kind of recognize all of the little triggers in my life I'm not being listened to. Where might that come from? Wild guesses. Anybody? We need to recognize those pain points. All of the triggers, usually, there's different ones. So these triggers, pain point back to this. These triggers, pain point back to this. You can figure it out. If you can't, get a therapist, talk to a friend, go and have a cup of tea with your mate. Go and talk it through. Go and figure it out, because I long for people to work out their relationships wherever you possibly can, and not walk away and go, they did this and they did that and they did this and they did that. They did. They did do those things. They did. And sometimes it's not resolvable. But most of the time, there is a meeting where you can meet someone and talk it through. And then you can feel like that bird. Whether you've needed to walk away and the relationship is done, and there's still healing in it because you set a good boundary for you to be able to walk away from, or the relationship has been restored because you had some good communication, you apologized for what was your part in it, and you sought an apology from them. Maybe they couldn't give it, but maybe there's a peace now between the two of you. Maybe the relationship isn't restored, but there is an understanding. Maybe we're not healthy for one another. Maybe we shouldn't be in each other's proximity, and that's okay too. That's normal. That's okay. But those bars melt away, and you find yourself, instead of feeling like a bird in a cage, singing to be released. Let me out, let me out, let me out, let me out. Why aren't you letting me out? Let me out. Why won't you let me out? I'm singing and I'm doing all the right things, and I'm doing all the right things, and I'm helping you, and I'm providing, and I'm doing all these things. And nobody's opening the cage. Why won't you open the cage? And you go, oh, I didn't need them to open the cage. I needed to love myself. I needed to take responsibility for myself. I needed to recognize what was their responsibility. And then the bars just disappear. There is no cage. And then I can fly free. I can sing from the treetops. I can do all the things I've been dreaming of doing. I no longer am bound by fear. I'm no longer bound by the things that have held me back in the past. Nobody's listening to me. Why won't anybody listen to me? Or I'm afraid of being in certain environments because they trigger me into feeling like I'm unsafe. All of the things. It is totally possible to work through those things, to bring them to an understanding within yourself where you go, I don't need to be afraid anymore. I might be triggered for the rest of my life, but I don't need to react to those triggers in a negative way and stop them from doing what I want to do with my life, from changing the things I want to change in my life, from getting the job I really always dreamt of getting. Fear is a liar. Fear tells us that we can't. Fear tells us that we're trapped. Fear tells us that it's impossible. Fear tells us it's somebody else's fault. Fear tells us that we deserve to be punished. Fear tells us we should hate ourselves. Fear tells us nonsense. If we listen to fear, we will be trapped for the rest of our lives. If we listen to love, which is the opposite, we will be free. Love is the most extraordinary, wonderful thing. And it isn't just a feeling. Love is deep. Love is what the whole universe was created for and from. And getting into that love, understanding what that really means in your life, understanding how much of it is available to you all the time, gives you the opportunity to face fear. Feel the fear and do it anyway. Perfect love casts out all fear. Doesn't mean it just disappears, but it casts out its control over your life. I'm afraid to have that conversation. I don't know how to address this. If you come at it with love, you can address anything. Now, I'm not going to gloss over the fact that some people are in abusive situations where it is not their fault at all. You have no responsibility except that it is happening to you. There is a door and it is open unless you're being trafficked. There is a door and it is unlocked. The only thing that will keep you in an abusive relationship or situation is the inability to walk out of the door. That is your responsibility. Why are you not walking out the door? Why do you think this is what you deserve? Because I'm telling you, you don't deserve to be abused. Anyone that's abusing you is taking out their own fear, their own pain that they will not deal with on you. They are expressing their fear and as anger. Fear is usually the reason people get angry. Fear of not being heard, fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of all these things makes people express anger. But actually behind most angry feelings is fear. When someone's being so angry towards you in an abusive fashion, often they're dealing with fear. Now, it's not your job to heal them. It's not your job to stay and hope that they get better. Often removing yourself helps that person get better because they no longer have somebody to abuse, or they'll find somebody else to abuse and you realize it was never you. It was never you. They needed someone to abuse because that's how they express their fear and they don't know how to deal with their fear. But you do not have to stay. Take responsibility for that one thing. That is the only thing you're responsible for. If there is a door and it is unlocked, you are free to walk away. It's so much more complicated than that. I know it. I know it. It's so much more complicated than that. But take a listen to this song. Pray. Reach out to a friend, a family member, somebody you can trust, the police, if there's nobody else, and say, I need help. I need to walk out the door and I don't know how to do it. Will you help me? And I am praying for you to be relieved from any situation that you shouldn't be in and you don't have any responsibility for. You are awesome. You are incredible. All of us are loved the same amount. I'm not loved more than you are. We are all loved in that immovable fashion. That means we can face the fears. That means we can see that the cage isn't real and that we can walk away or we can fix what is here. It's so hard, but it is so worth it.